What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Erin Bees. I am a wife, a mom, a military veteran, and I spent 13 and a half years in multi-level marketing, healed my way out, and now I'm using all of my social media platforms to educate and raise awareness around the dangers of multi-level marketing companies and the tactics used by their reps to try and recruit you. If you're brand new, what's up? Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. If you've been here a while, appreciate you. Shout out to all of the members. Shout out to anybody that watches, even if it's quietly. I just really appreciate you guys being here. If you'd like to follow me on social media, I always do that. This side. Those are my handles. You can follow me there. I am talking a lot lately about diet culture, showing what I'm eating, showing how I'm working out, and really just, I don't even know how I want to word that. So if that's something you're interested in, I'm talking about that a lot. So I don't even know, honestly, where to start with this video, other than I watched Julie Joe's video on Tony Robbins. And if you have not watched it, highly suggest it. I'm actually going to link it above so that you guys can check it out. She did such a phenomenal job. And yes, I know that I'm kind of biased because she's my best friend. However, she did a really, really good job. And some of the stuff that she talked about in her videos, I didn't even know. And I was going to comment, and my comment was like ending up being super long. And I thought, well, hang on a second. Maybe this is something I need to do a video on. Maybe this is something I need to talk about my experience. It's interesting to me how there's an overlap of some of these like self-help gurus and MLM events and different things like that. So consider this a story time video. I'm not going to be reacting to anything. I do have some pictures that I'm going to show you guys. And I'm going to talk about my experience with going to a Tony Robbins event in 2017. And so let's go all the way back to 2017. I was a part of Modere at that time. If you've not watched my Modere videos, you can check those out under my anti-MLM playlist. It's a two-part thing. I talk about how I was terminated from that company. It's a lot. And that summer, let me actually back up. Let's go back to 2015. In 2015, we had just moved here to Vegas, and I was in a lawsuit with Lovewinks and Pure Romance. That's public record. And so I was not working in an MLM. I had to take a year off. Pure Romance won the lawsuit. I have some strong opinions about why they won that lawsuit, but I'll save that for another video. And so I had to take a year off, which was amazing actually, because I was able to focus on my family, get the kids, or get my oldest at the time situated in school, find a place for us to live, all of that stuff. We had an awesome summer. And then that August of 2015 is when I started doing parties again with Lovewinks. In that kind of in-between period, when we moved here in June of 2015, I really was lost, because you have to kind of understand where I was coming from and my mindset at that time. And I know that word mindset is so triggering to so many of us, because it's weaponized, in my opinion, as a way to get people to do what they want within the MLM. I'd been in MLM for 7-8 years, I believe, by that time. 7 years, 7.5, somewhere in there. And I came across the I'm Not Your Guru show on Netflix. And it showed kind of an inside perspective. And then when you watch stuff like that, it's kind of interesting how all of a sudden you start getting ads and different things like that. So I was on Facebook, saw an ad for a free coaching session, and I was like, okay, well, let's try this. I've never done this before. And so I ended up getting like a discovery call or something like that with a Tony Robbins representative, and ended up signing up for coaching. The thing that I find interesting now is my coach with Tony Robbins also was in Nerium at the time. It's Neora now. Yeah. And so he was a coach for Tony Robbins, but also was building a multi-level marketing company, and still is to this day, the last I checked. So the overlap of coach / mentor, but also building in an MLM business was prevalent even back then for me. I just didn't put two and two together at the time. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it because here I was getting ready to start again with Lovewinks in an MLM, right? So like I was like, okay, well that makes sense. Now I'm like, red flag. I wish I had Chelsea's red flags. Chelsea, bring those back, by the way. Anyways, I feel like I haven't seen them in a while. So I started working with the coach, and I believe when you are working with a coach, you get like discounted tickets or something like that. I ended up buying a ticket, and I want to say it was like $2,400 or $2,500. I went to the New Jersey event in 2017, July 2017. I think there was like 14,000 people in this arena in Newark, New Jersey. It was absolutely wild. And some of the things that I look back now, I can see are major red flags. And so in Julie Joe's video where she was talking about the lack of water, the lack of food, the lack of rest, absolutely yes. Those things absolutely happened. I think that at the time or after the event, because I had an Apple Watch, still do, and I think I did like 35 miles in a 3-day event. So you think of an event and you think of, you know, sitting down, taking notes. That's not what these events are like. They're very much like Prove It events where you're jumping around, and Tony Robbins talks about changing your state and this and that. And, you know, you're exhausted. I was exhausted. You'll be able to see it in some of the pictures I'm going to show you here in a little bit. And so 3-day event, were there vendors for food and water? Yes. Was it expensive? Absolutely. There weren't really break times. It's very similar to how Prove It does, and I'll explain that here shortly. You're taking notes, but then you're like jumping up and down, and it's a lot. It's very, very intense. The days are super long. You're not really sure what's going on, so you're kind of just going with the flow. And I feel like now that I look back, I really do feel like that was part of the manipulation, just in my opinion. And I think, I don't remember what day this was, but I think one of the most, I want to say dangerous. And again, everything that I'm sharing in this video is just based on my opinion and based on my experience of actually going to Unleash the Power Within. And at the time, I thought all of this stuff was so incredible. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And now I look back and I can see just the red flags and all of it. And so there's this exercise that he does, and I think it's called the Dickens exercise. And basically what it is, it's an exercise he walks you through. The lights it's completely dark. So picture being in this stadium with 14,000 people. I was there with a friend of mine. I'm not going to mention her name because she is not a public figure. And if she ever chose to share her experience and her story, that's for her to do. I'm just sharing my experience. So out of this 14,000, I knew one person. And anyways, the lights come down. All you see is Tony Robbins. You're told to close your eyes. And essentially what he's doing is he's walking you through this exercise of, if you're not living your full potential, what your life will look like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you know, and you go to this really, really dark place because that's what you're walked through verbally. And it's extremely dark. And I don't know if you guys have seen the movie, What Dreams May Come. If you have, comment below. But there's a part where I think they're in like purgatory or something like that. And they're walking around and you hear all of these like groans. I have goosebumps, and this part makes me so uncomfortable. Ugh. But you hear groans and you hear pain. And in this movie, you see, I don't even know how to describe it. If you guys have seen it, let me know. But that's what it felt like in this moment. It felt dark. It felt, you know, you could hear people just screaming and yelling and crying. And it was, whew, I have goosebumps right now, and not in a good way. it was so dark, and I don't know how else to explain that. And then he's like, okay, now what happens if you live your potential? And he kind of brings you back. But I can't help but think that there's some people in that stadium that probably lingered a little bit, that darkness, that, ugh, you know. And I remember at one point he was talking about keto, and at the time I was in Modern, I was like, I'm not going to do keto, whatever. And it was really intense. It was really, really intense and manipulative. And, you know, a lot of the things that Julie Joe talked about in her video were shocking to me because of, one, I hadn't researched that before, but two, I had a different experience, right? So I was at the event and he's walking around, and when I tell you the size of this man in person, I can't even find the right adjectives to use. Big man does not even describe it. He's huge, and he's walking around, and there's a certain amount of, I don't want to say commanding respect, but I guess that's the best way I can describe it. That's what that felt like. He's walking around and you're like, oh my God, he's walking right behind me. I'm sitting in a chair, and it's like, I mean, you're looking, it's insane. So some of the claims and stuff, I'm like, okay, well, when you pair that with the size of him, I don't know. That's just my opinion. Anyways, let's look at some of the pictures. I did walk on the hot coals. I have done it with Prove It. I've broken arrows with my neck. I've broken boards when I was in slumber parties. And in my opinion, those types of exercise are really just about mindset and you know, working through your limiting beliefs. When you're pairing that with an MLM, I feel like that's super manipulative because it's just, hey, you can do this. You know, this is hard. Well, the reason it's hard is because you have to do so much trying to get those scraps of income from your multi-level marketing company. And it's just, the business model is set up for most people to not win. We know that. We see the income disclosure statements from the companies. We see the statistics and data from the Federal Trade Commission. We know all of this. And so you're working crazy hard, and you have these limiting beliefs that's what they say in these MLM companies and at these events. But that is cognitive dissonance showing up, and questioning that is really important, and stepping away from the chaos is really important. And I think that at these events, whether it's you know, a Tony Robbins event or MLM coaches or company events, and you're jumping around and you're exhausted, not a lot of food, not a lot of water, those types of things, I really feel like that's all part of the process of creating the smoke screen that prevents you from really acknowledging the cognitive dissonance that's going on. That's just my opinion. You guys let me know what you think. But let's look at some of these pictures. I don't know why one of these is sideways. Hold on. So here's the first one. Look how exhausted I look. Oh my God. I look so tired in this picture. My eyes are swollen. I think we were only sleeping, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 hours a night. It was insane, the amount of movement. And when you pair that with a lack of food, a lack of water, that's straight out of the BITE model. You know, it's behavior control, those types of things. And I just feel like it's a recipe for disaster. I don't know why this one is showing up sideways, but we'll skip that one. Anyways, so it was 3 days, and the whole process of getting there was insane. My husband at the time was working 6 days a week. And so I drove my kids up to Colorado, and my mom watched my kids while I flew to New Jersey and was at this event. And then I came back, and and this is just my opinion, because I was so exhausted, because I was not drinking a lot of water because it's not readily available. And that was my experience. And because there was not a whole lot of food options. And if there were food options within the arena, it was extremely expensive. And so when I got back to Colorado to pick up my kids, I was extremely sick with a really high fever. And I have experienced some of this before from MLM events. I typically call it an event hangover. There's a lot of people in MLM that call it that. And it's like you have to recover from the event because you're jumping around, lack of sleep, you're not eating a whole lot. And that takes a toll on your body. And I got really, really sick. And that's very well known that those types of things happen after Tony Robbins' event. People talked about it all the time. And the weird part is that people presented that as a good thing. No, you're exhausted, right? So it's grind culture and all of that stuff kind of wrapped into one. Very odd, in my opinion. You guys know I react to my own content. And this next picture, I thought I was doing something so good. So good. I thought I was like unleashing the best version of myself. Look at this picture. What? Aaron, the hell are you doing? I really thought I was doing something. What is the point of this? You're in the backyard of your parents' house and you're like, I'm unleashing the best version of me. I don't even remember what the caption was. I put it on Facebook, and in my opinion, this is one giant indoctrination event. And then I gotta take this off. And then the overlap between Tony Robbins and MLM events. He speaks periodically at Eric Worre's events. He speaks at company events and all kinds of stuff. And there's this weird overlap of self-help gurus and MLM events. And I can't help but wonder if this is somebody that is supposed to be, so business oriented. Has he looked at these companies' income disclosure statements? Or is it like one of those things where celebrities it's a paid gig? I can't help but wonder that. I don't know if we'll ever have answers to that. But now that I look back at this event, I realize how manipulative it really was. And the fact that I spent money, the fact that I was, working with a Tony Robbins coach that was also building an MLM, it just all felt very, I keep saying manipulative. I don't know how else to describe it. I think that they're indoctrination events. And I think that there is a certain amount of, I'm doing this because I want to help you. And I think Julie Joe said it in one of her videos, and she was talking about how the self-help industry has very problematic people, behaviors. Not that everything in self-help is problematic, but I definitely think that this for sure was. And again, that's just my opinion. I cringe at some of the stuff that I look back that I did, whether it was in an MLM or at this event or post leading up to it. It was a lot. It was a lot. So that was my experience going to a Tony Robbins event, Unleash the Power Within, in New Jersey in 2017. And the really crazy part, which I thought was like, oh my God, this is the timing of this is incredible. I got back from the event and Jessie Lee was suspended. You guys know that Jessie Lee was my former leader in Prove It, and also in Modere. And she was suspended, and she ended up being invited to a Prove It event here in Vegas, and she would typically stay with me. And so we went to this event, and I was still a part of Modere. And I remember sitting next to Lisa Grossman, and they were breaking they were breaking an arrow, excuse me. And I was just trying to sit there and like take in the event. And the next thing I know, I've got cameras in my face, and Brian Underwood is holding this piece of wood, and I'm breaking an arrow with my neck. And it's so crazy now that I look back on it. But what is really odd to me is that allegedly Prove It uses the old event coordinator. I don't know if this is still the case, but at that time, it was alleged to me that Prove It uses former Tony Robbins event coordinator. So a lot of the same music that I was programmed with, I guess that's the best way to say that, at the Tony Robbins event, Prove It also uses. So when I walked into that event, I was like, wait, hold on a second. This is all very familiar. I just saw this. And then Joseph McClendon is on the stage, and Joseph McClendon is somebody that speaks at Tony Robbins events. And he does a lot with neuro-linguistic programming, which got, now I see, oh my God, this is insane. I was a part of a cult. I was a part of a commercial cult, and the music and the jumping around, the lack of food, the lack of water at Prove It events, the encouraging of just drink more ketones. You don't need to sleep. It's fine. Drink more ketones, and just all of that kind of wrapped into one delicious, of course that's sarcastic, package was a way to control behavior, was a way to indoctrinate their people to believe in what they're doing and how they're doing it, and that, yes, you're on the right track. So when I walked into that, and I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. I just saw him, and I'm looking at Jessie Lee, and I'm looking at all these people, and I'm like, oh my God, this is where we're supposed to be. It was familiar. It was familiar, and not in a good way. So yeah, that was my experience at Tony Robbins, and how it kind of intertwined with Eric Worre's events a little bit, and how it definitely intertwined with Prove It and the people that are linked with Prove It. And it's just interesting to me to see how connected and how small MLM and the leadership within MLM are connected to some of these self-help gurus. So that's my story. It was a lot. And yeah, don't join an MLM, friends. I definitely do not suggest going to Tony Robbins events. At the time, I thought it was absolutely incredible. And when I look back at posts and stuff from that time, you know, I said the same thing. I was like, it's amazing. No, it's not. I was exhausted. You're not taken care of. You get sick when you get back, a lot of people. And I just think it's another example of indoctrination events where they can program your mind with anything because they practice NLP. So I don't even know how to end this, to be quite honest with you, other than to say, don't join an MLM. I don't suggest going to any Tony Robbins events. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye, everybody.